I can hear the wind through the broken glass, the smell of jet fuel mixed with burning carpet and something worse, something human. I'm on the 68th floor of the South Tower, and my legs are shaking so hard I can barely stand. There's a woman in front of me, sitting against a wall, and she's singing, just singing softly to herself. This old hymn I remember from childhood. Her face is covered in ash, her blouse torn, and she's singing like she's in church on a Sunday morning. I reach out my hand to her, and that's when I feel it. The entire building shifts, just slightly, but I know what it means. We all know what it means. The floor beneath us groans like a dying animal, and I think to myself, this is it. This is how I die. 37 years old, 2 kids at home, and I'm about to be buried under 1,000,000 tons of steel and concrete because I kept climbing when everyone else was running down. If you're listening to this now, I need you to do something for me. I need you to remember, not just me, not just the guys I served with, but everyone who was there that day, everyone who didn't make it home, everyone who did make it home, but left pieces of themselves in that burning tower. Hit subscribe, leave a comment, tell me you'll remember. Because these stories, they fade if we don't hold on to them. And I can't let this one fade. I won't. My name is Michael Patrick Donnelly. I was a firefighter with Ladder Company 118 out of Brooklyn Heights. September 11th, 2001. That date is carved into my bones now, into my lungs, into every nightmare I've had for the past 24 years. I was 37 years old that morning, married to Sarah for 12 years, 2 kids. Emma was 9, Connor was 6. We lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Bay Ridge, the kind of place where you could hear your neighbors arguing through the walls, where the radiator clanged all winter, where the smell of Mrs. Chen's cooking would drift up from downstairs every evening around 6. It was home. I'd been with the FDNY for 14 years by then. Started when I was 23, fresh out of the academy, young and stupid and convinced I was invincible. My father had been a firefighter, his father before him. It was in the blood, you know, that calling, that need to run toward the fire when everyone else is running away. Sarah used to joke that I had smoke in my veins instead of blood. Maybe she was right. On the morning of September 11th, I woke up at 5:30 like I always did. The apartment was dark and quiet. Sarah was still asleep, curled up on her side, her hair spread across the pillow. I remember standing in the doorway of the kids' room, just watching them sleep. Emma with her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Connor sprawled out like a starfish. Blankets kicked off onto the floor. I didn't know then that it would be the last normal moment of my life. I got to the firehouse around 6:15. The morning was clear, beautiful even. One of those late summer days in New York where the air hasn't turned cold yet, where everything feels possible. We had coffee, the usual banter. Tommy Rizzo was complaining about his ex-wife again. Dave Martinez was showing everyone pictures of his new baby girl. Captain Morrison was doing paperwork in his office, occasionally yelling at us to keep it down. It was routine, comfortable, safe. We ran a few calls that morning. A small kitchen fire in Cobble Hill turned out to be nothing, just some idiot who left a pan on the stove. A medical assist for an elderly man having chest pains. By 8:30, we were back at the house, settling in, thinking it would be a quiet day. Then the tones went off. 8:46 a.m. Every radio in the house crackled to life at once. A plane had hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. At first, we thought it was a small plane, an accident, some poor pilot who got disoriented, who made a terrible mistake. We geared up fast, the way we always did, but there was no panic yet, not yet. We climbed into the rig, Captain Morrison driving, Tommy riding shotgun, me and Dave and Chris Sullivan in the back. The sirens screamed as we raced through Brooklyn, across the bridge, and that's when we saw it. The North Tower, smoke pouring out of the upper floors, this massive black column rising into that perfect blue sky. I remember thinking it looked wrong, like something from a movie, too big to be real. We were maybe 2 minutes away when the second plane hit. 9:03 a.m. I saw it. We all saw it. This commercial jet, full speed, slamming into the South Tower. The explosion bloomed outward, orange and black, debris raining down like deadly confetti. The sound came a second later, this deep concussive boom that you felt in your chest, in your teeth. Captain Morrison didn't say anything. He just pressed harder on the gas. The streets around the towers were chaos. People running, screaming, covered in ash and blood. Papers everywhere, thousands of them, floating down like snow. Briefcases and shoes and pieces of building scattered across the pavement. The air was thick with smoke and this acrid chemical smell that burned your throat. We pulled up to the South Tower and I remember looking up, trying to see the top, but I couldn't. The smoke was too thick. Command post was being set up in the lobby. Chief Palmer was there, his face grim, barking orders into his radio. The plan was simple. Get up there. Get people out. We didn't talk about the fire. We didn't talk about the jet fuel or the structural damage or the fact that the temperature up there was probably 2,000 degrees. We just grabbed our gear and headed for the stairwell. Stairwell A. I can still see the sign. The stairs were crowded with people coming down. Office workers, men in suits with loosened ties, women in heels they'd kicked off so they could run faster. Their faces were gray with ash, eyes wide with shock. They moved in this zombie-like shuffle, not speaking, just moving down, down, down. We pushed against the current, moving up. Each flight was harder than the last. The gear was heavy, 70 pounds of turnout coat, air tank, tools, hose. The air got hotter, thicker. By the 10th floor, I was already breathing hard. By the 20th, my legs were burning. We passed other crews on the way up. Engine 207, Ladder 101. Guys I knew, guys I'd trained with, guys whose kids went to school with my kids. We nodded as we passed. Nobody wasted breath on words. Around the 35th floor, we started finding people who couldn't walk. A man with a broken leg, 2 women helping him down, an older woman having an asthma attack. We did what we could, got them moving, kept climbing. The building was groaning. That's the only way I can describe it. This low metallic groan, like the steel was crying out. Sometimes you could feel vibrations through the floor, little tremors that made your stomach drop. But we kept climbing. 45th floor, 50th, 55th. My radio crackled. Chief Palmer's voice, calm and steady, reporting that he'd reached the 78th floor of the South Tower. The 78th floor. The impact zone. He was describing what he saw. 2 isolated pockets of fire. People trapped. He was making a plan to put it out, to save them. His voice was steady, professional, like this was just another fire. I was on the 62nd floor when I heard it, 9:59 a.m. A sound like the earth breaking open, a roar so deep and so loud that it didn't seem like sound at all, more like the air itself was being torn apart. The building shook, not swayed, shook, hard. I grabbed onto the railing, and Tommy grabbed onto me, and we both looked at each other with this expression that I'll never forget. Pure animal terror. The North Tower, someone was shouting. The North Tower collapsed. But we weren't in the North Tower. We were in the South Tower, and for a moment, just a moment, I felt this surge of relief. We're okay. We're still standing. Then Captain Morrison's voice came through on the radio. Everybody out. Evacuate now. All units, evacuate the building immediately. But we weren't on the first floor. We were on the 62nd, and there were still people up here. I saw them on the 65th floor, a group of maybe 8 or 9 people huddled in a conference room. The door was jammed, either from the impact or from the heat warping the frame. They were banging on the glass, screaming. Tommy and I went to work on the door with the Halligan bar, prying and pulling. My shoulders screamed. My lungs screamed. But the door came open, and they poured out, these broken, terrified people, and we pointed them toward the stairs. Go! Go now! Don't stop! Most of them ran. But one man, this guy in a torn button-down shirt, he looked at me and said, "Thank you, thank you," and then he was gone, running down the stairs, and I never saw him again. I don't know if he made it. We kept moving up. I don't know why. The order was to evacuate, but we kept hearing voices above us, calling for help, crying. And what were we supposed to do? Just leave them? That's not what we signed up for. 66th floor, 67th. The heat was unbearable now. Even through my coat, I could feel it, like standing too close to an oven. The walls were hot to the touch. The floor was hot. Everything was hot. On the 68th floor, that's where I found her. The woman I told you about at the beginning. She was sitting with her back against the wall in a corner office, surrounded by overturned desks and shattered glass. Her name tag said, Patricia Chen. She was maybe in her 50s, with short gray hair and a torn red blouse. And she was singing, "Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me." Her voice was soft, almost childlike. I knelt down next to her, my knees cracking on the debris-covered floor. "Patricia," I said, "we need to go. Can you walk?" She looked at me with these clear brown eyes and smiled. Just the smallest, saddest smile. "I can't feel my legs," she said. "I've been trying, but I can't feel them." I looked down and saw the blood. So much blood, pooled around her, soaking into the carpet. Her legs were crushed under a fallen beam. There was no way to move it, not without equipment we didn't have, not without time we didn't have. I called for Tommy, and he came over, took one look, and I saw his face go pale under the soot. Dave was there too. Chris. We all stood there for a second, just a second, looking at this woman who was going to die. She kept singing, "I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see." I took off my glove and held her hand. It was cold, too cold. "Patricia," I said, "I'm going to stay with you, okay? You're not alone." She squeezed my hand, weak, but she squeezed. "Thank you," she whispered. "Tell my daughter I love her. Tell her I wasn't scared." "I will," I lied. "I promise I will." Tommy grabbed my shoulder. "Mike, we have to go. Now. The building's not stable. We have to move." I looked up at him and I wanted to argue. I wanted to say we can't leave her, we can't just leave her here to die alone. But I knew he was right, and Patricia knew it too. She looked right at me and said, "Go. Save someone who can be saved. Go." I stood up. My hand slipped out of hers, and I turned away. I turned away from Patricia Chen and I started walking toward the stairs, and behind me I could still hear her singing. "Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come." That's the last thing I heard before the world ended. 10:02 a.m. We were on the 64th floor, heading down, when the South Tower began to collapse. It didn't feel like I thought it would. There was no warning, no countdown. Just suddenly, the floor dropped. Just dropped out from under us like a trap door. I was falling. Tommy was falling. Everything was falling. The sound was beyond description, louder than anything you can imagine. Louder than thunder, louder than a jet engine. It was the sound of 110 floors of concrete and steel and glass and humanity being compressed into dust. I hit something. A wall maybe, or a desk. I don't know. Pain exploded through my left side, my ribs, my arm. Everything went dark, not black, dark, like the absence of light, the absence of everything. I couldn't breathe. The air was solid, not smoke, not dust. Solid, like trying to breathe concrete. I was going to die. I knew I was going to die. And in that moment, I thought of Sarah, of Emma and Connor. I thought about how I wouldn't see them grow up, how I'd never walk Emma down the aisle, how I'd never teach Connor to drive, how they'd have to grow up without a father. And I was sorry, so sorry. But I didn't die. Somehow, impossibly, I didn't die. When I opened my eyes, I was buried, trapped under something heavy, in complete darkness. My left arm was pinned, crushed under debris. I couldn't move it, couldn't feel anything below the elbow. My ribs screamed with every breath, but I was breathing. I was alive. I tried to call out, but my voice was gone, destroyed by the dust I'd inhaled. I could taste blood. I could taste chemicals. I could taste death. I don't know how long I was buried. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. Time didn't exist in that darkness. There was just pain and fear and the weight of 1,000,000,000,000 tons of building pressing down on me. I prayed. I'm not a religious man. Wasn't then. But I prayed. Please God, let me see my family again. Please. That's all I wanted. Just one more time. I heard voices. Distant. Muffled. Someone was digging. Someone was calling out, asking if anyone could hear them. I tried to scream, but nothing came out except this pathetic wheezing sound. But it was enough. They heard. Light. Blinding, beautiful light. Hands grabbing me, pulling me. The pain was unbearable. I think I passed out. When I woke up, I was on a stretcher. The sky above me was gray. Not blue like it had been that morning. Gray with smoke and ash. There were people everywhere. Firefighters, cops, EMTs, regular people, all covered in dust, all looking like ghosts. Someone was putting an oxygen mask on my face. Someone else was cutting away my coat, my shirt, checking for injuries. I tried to ask about Tommy, about Dave, about Chris, about Captain Morrison. Nobody answered. They just kept working on me, their faces grim. I was loaded into an ambulance. The last thing I saw before the doors closed was the skyline of Lower Manhattan. Where the Twin Towers had stood, there was nothing. Just smoke, just absence, just a wound in the sky. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital. Crushed ribs, punctured lung, severe lacerations on my left arm, second-degree burns on my back and legs, smoke inhalation that left my lungs scarred and damaged. They said I was lucky. Lucky. 343 firefighters died that day. Tommy Rizzo, Dave Martinez, Chris Sullivan, Captain Morrison, Chief Palmer, all gone, crushed under the towers, buried in the rubble. I went to the funerals. So many funerals. I wore my dress uniform and stood in the back and listened to Amazing Grace played on bagpipes until I wanted to scream. I looked at the widows, the children, the parents. I shook hands and accepted condolences and hated every second of it because I was alive and they were dead and there was no reason for it. No logic. Just dumb luck. I survived because I happened to fall in a pocket, a tiny void created by a collapsed desk and a support beam. Tommy died 6 feet away from me. 6 feet. That's the difference between living and dying. 6 feet and random chance. Sarah tried to help. God, she tried. But how do you help someone who's drowning on dry land? I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in that stairwell. Back in the darkness. Back with Patricia Chen singing her hymn while she bled out on the 68th floor. I started drinking. Not much at first. Just a beer or two to take the edge off. Then a 6-pack. Then a bottle. Sarah would find me passed out on the couch at 3 a.m., empty bottle on the floor, and she'd just cover me with a blanket and leave. Emma and Connor stopped asking me to play with them. They got quiet around me, careful, like I was made of glass and might shatter at any moment. Maybe I was. The FDNY put me on medical leave, permanently. My lungs were too damaged. I couldn't pass the physical. I couldn't do the job anymore. And if I couldn't do the job, then what was I? Who was I? I was a firefighter. That's all I'd ever been. And they took it away. I tried to go back to normal. Got a job as a safety inspector for a construction company. Went through the motions. Wake up, go to work, come home, drink, sleep, repeat. But normal didn't exist anymore. The world had split into before and after, and I was stuck in after, and I didn't know how to live there. Sarah left me in 2004, took the kids and moved in with her sister in New Jersey. I didn't fight it. How could I? I was a ghost, a shell. She deserved better. They all deserved better. I saw Emma and Connor every other weekend, watched them grow up in snapshots. Emma got into college. Connor joined the Marines. They both turned out fine, despite me, not because of me. I'm proud of them. I wish I could have been better for them. I wish a lot of things. The nightmares never stopped. 24 years later, I still wake up screaming, still feel the building falling, still hear Patricia singing. I still taste the dust. The doctors call it PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. They give me pills. They give me therapy. They give me everything except the one thing I need, which is to go back to September 10th and stay home that day. Hug my kids a little longer. Tell Sarah I love her one more time. Not go to work. Not climb those stairs. Not watch my brothers die. But I can't go back. None of us can. We're all stuck in after. Me and every other survivor. Every family member. Every person who lost someone that day. We're all trapped in after. And there's no way out. I think about the people I saved. The ones from the conference room on the 65th floor. The ones we passed coming down the stairs. Did they make it? Are they alive somewhere, living their lives? Maybe thinking occasionally about the firefighters who helped them. I hope so. I hope they made it. I hope their survival meant something. I hope mine means something. I'm 59 years old now. I live alone in a studio apartment in Queens. My left arm doesn't work right anymore. The fingers don't quite close. I have a cough that never goes away. A rattle in my chest that the doctors say will probably kill me eventually. Cancer maybe, or just plain old lung failure from all the toxins I breathed in. I'm okay with that. I'm not suicidal. I'm not sitting around waiting to die, but I'm not afraid of it either, because I already died once on September 11th, 2001 at 10:02 a.m. Everything since then has been borrowed time. Last month I got a letter, forwarded through the FDNY from someone named Rebecca Chen, Patricia's daughter. She'd spent years trying to find me, trying to find anyone who was with her mother at the end. She wanted to know if her mother suffered, if she was alone, if she was afraid. I wrote back. I told her about the singing, about how calm her mother was, how brave. I told her that Patricia asked me to tell her daughter that she loved her, that she wasn't scared. I didn't tell her about the blood, about the crushed legs, about how I left her there to die alone. Some truths are too heavy to share. Rebecca wrote back. She thanked me. She said it helped, knowing her mother wasn't alone in those final moments. She said she thinks about me sometimes, about all the firefighters who went up those stairs knowing they might not come back down. She said we were heroes. I don't feel like a hero. Heroes save people. I failed. I failed Patricia. I failed Tommy and Dave and Chris and the captain. I failed my own family. Heroes don't fail. They don't drink themselves to sleep. They don't push away everyone who tries to help. They don't spend 2 decades drowning in guilt and grief. But maybe that's not what heroism is. Maybe heroism is just doing the job, climbing the stairs when everyone else is running down, holding a dying woman's hand so she doesn't have to be alone, going back to work even when you're broken because people need you. I don't know. I'll never know. What I do know is this. September 11th, 2001 changed everything. It broke the world. It broke me. And the pieces don't fit back together the same way. There are cracks now, gaps, places where light used to be and now there's only shadow. But I'm still here, still breathing, still carrying these memories like stones in my pockets. And as long as I'm here, they're here too. Tommy laughing at his own terrible jokes. Dave showing off pictures of his baby girl. Chris complaining about the Yankees. Captain Morrison's calm voice on the radio. Chief Palmer reporting from the 78th floor. Patricia Chen singing Amazing Grace while the world burned around her. They're all still here, in my memory. And as long as I remember, they're not really gone. That's what I tell myself anyway. On the bad days, when the weight gets too heavy, when I can't breathe, when I want nothing more than to just stop, I tell myself that someone has to remember. Someone has to carry these stories. And maybe that's my job now. Maybe that's why I survived when they didn't. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for forgiveness or redemption or any of that. I just need you to know. I need you to understand what happened that day. Not the big picture. Not the politics or the wars or the history. Just the small moments. The human moments. A firefighter holding a dying woman's hand. A group of strangers helping each other down smoke-filled stairs. Regular people doing extraordinary things because that's what the moment required. That's what September 11th was. Not just tragedy, not just horror, but humanity. Raw and beautiful and terrible all at once. I wish I could tell you that it gets easier. That time heals all wounds, but it doesn't. The wound is still there, 24 years later. Some days it's a dull ache. Some days it's a fresh bleeding gash, but it's always there. And maybe that's okay. Maybe we're supposed to carry these wounds. Maybe that's how we honor the ones we lost, by refusing to let the pain fade, by keeping the memory alive, no matter how much it hurts. My name is Michael Patrick Donnelly. I was a firefighter with Ladder Company 118. On September 11, 2001, I climbed the South Tower of the World Trade Center. I made it to the 68th floor. I held a woman's hand while she died. I survived the collapse. Most of my friends didn't, and I will carry their memory until the day I die. This is my story. This is their story. This is what happened. Some memories fade with time. The sharp edges soften. The colors blur. The details slip away like sand through your fingers. But this one can't fade. This one won't. Because if we forget, if we let go, then they died for nothing. And I can't accept that. I won't. So I'm asking you, please, remember. Remember the firefighters who climbed when everyone else ran. Remember the office workers helping strangers down the stairs. Remember the ordinary people who did extraordinary things. Remember Patricia Chen singing Amazing Grace. Remember all of them. Say their names. Tell their stories. Keep them alive in the only way we can now, in memory and in heart. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment. Share this story. Not for me, for them, for everyone who didn't make it home that day, for everyone who did make it home but left pieces of themselves in the rubble, for the families still grieving, for the children who grew up without parents, for the parents who buried their children. Keep the memory alive. That's all I'm asking. That's all any of us who were there are asking. Don't let them be forgotten. Don't let that day become just another date in a history book. Make it matter. Make their sacrifice matter. Please. That's all. That's the end of my story. Or maybe it's just the middle. Maybe the story doesn't end until the last person who remembers is gone. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's how it should be. Carrying the weight together. Remembering together. Honoring them together. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring enough to hear this. Thank you for helping me carry the weight, even if just for 30 minutes. It means more than you know. Some of us came back from September 11th, but none of us came back whole. We're all still there, in some way. Still climbing those stairs, still hearing the voices, still living in after, and we'll be there until the end. That's the price we pay. That's the burden we carry, and we carry it gladly because someone has to. Someone has to remember. Someone has to tell the story. Today that someone is me. Tomorrow, maybe it's you. Pass it on. Keep it alive. Never forget.